Well, that was unexpected, am I right? The NBA Draft Lottery, so many surprises. The Hawks moved all the way up to number 1. They had a 3% chance of that happening. The Spurs, they have 2 picks in the lottery. The Raptors, completely out of the lottery. The Houston Rockets, they have a top 3 pick. And of course, the Pistons fans, they're talking about how they were screwed because they are going to pick at number 5 after having one of the worst records in the league. So much to talk about in today's video. I'm going to go through the entire first round. I'm going to mock out all of the picks, all the players, tell you who may go where. It is Mock Draft 4.0. Thanks for tuning in to the channel today, guys. My name is Troy. This is the Half Court Report. We're going to get into it in just a second, but I just want you to know if I get 500 likes on this video for my next draft video in a few weeks, I'm going to do both rounds, all 60 picks. So 500 likes to make that happen. So let's get into it, and the first pick is going to be made by the Atlanta Hawks, and I have them selecting Alex Sarr. Sarr is 7'1", 220 pounds, 7'5" wingspan, most recently played in Australia, but he is from France originally. So these numbers don't jump off the page. He only played about 18 minutes per game for the Perth Wildcats, but you're drafting Alex Sarr for his defense, and you hope that his offense is going to catch up eventually. He's a great help defender. He protects the rim. In a few years, he could be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. I've seen comparisons to Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe Nick Claxton on the low end. But if it all checks out, this is a guy who would be a really solid addition to this Hawks roster. I think Sarr complements Onyeka Okongwu in the front court. Then there's lots of questions with DeJounte Murray, Trae Young. Very exciting offseason ahead for the Atlanta Hawks, and it starts now with picking who I think should be the number 1 pick for them, Alex Sarr at number 1. Number 2 going to be made by the Washington Wizards, and this pick is Rob Dillingham, University of Kentucky. He's a point guard, super athlete, blazing speed, great hops, super fun to watch on the court, plays above the rim, really good handle. He creates for himself, creates for others. Just all around solid player, over 40% from 3 on about 4 attempts per game. So he's a good floor spacer as well, maybe a Darius Garland kind of player if things come together for him. And those Kentucky guards, they always seem to do well in the pros. And the Wizards, they need a lot of players at their various positions. I think Rob Dillingham would be another solid piece to add to the rebuild. Pick number 3 going to be made by the Houston Rockets via the Brooklyn Nets. The ghost of the James Harden trade lives on, and they are going with Reed Sheppard. And I know that I'm going to get lots of smoke with this pick, but he shows great ability to put the ball in the basket, one of the best shooters in this draft. Quick release, lethal from downtown. So he's a good shot maker, but also a good playmaker. He can move the ball. He finds open teammates, high basketball IQ. Defensively, he's also solid, averaged over 2 steals per game. I think there's a good chance that the Rockets move this pick for veteran help. But if Sheppard sticks in Houston, he could be a good backup to Fred VanVleet. He can contribute to this team immediately. And then if you keep him, he and Amen Thompson would be a pretty sweet backcourt for the future. Pick number 4, going to be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and Donovan Clingan, come on down. You are the new front court teammate of Victor Wembanyama for the foreseeable future. And Clingan wouldn't even be the tallest guy in the team at 7'2". But how crazy would that be? This dude is enormous at 7 feet, about 270 pounds. He helped UConn to a second straight NCAA title. So you're drafting this guy hoping he becomes like a Brook Lopez kind of player. He dominates the paint with his size and his frame. He's a physical center. He makes the right reads when the defense collapses on him. And if you're playing with Wembanyama, the defense is going to be collapsing a lot on one of those guys. But on a per minute basis, Clingan is one of the most effective players in college basketball. The only thing holding him back would be injury concerns, because that's something you have to worry about with big dudes sometimes, but he is a mountain of a man. He can bang inside while Wemby stretches the floor and roams around, swatting all the shots, doing all the Wemby things that he does. But this would be a pretty exciting tandem, I think, if you're the Spurs. Pick number 5, going to be made by the Detroit Pistons, and they are selecting Zaccharie Rizachet. So he's another French player, 6'9", about 200 pounds. So he's got a quick release on his jumper. He's hard to guard, moves well off the ball. He gets to his spots, he cuts. He's going to be one of the youngest players in the draft, so lots of room for growth. Big question with him is his lack of shot creation, but with Cade Cunningham on the team, with Jaden Ivey on the team, I think that's less of an issue. But I think in the long run, Rizachet projects as maybe your 4th or 5th starter on a good team. But Detroit, they're getting that core together, and Zaccharie Rizachet fits what they're trying to do by getting in young guys who can shoot, and just a lot of pieces that they can mold in the types of players that they want for their franchise. So pick number 6 going to be made by the Charlotte Hornets, and they are selecting Stephon Castle, teammate of Donovan Clingan, who I picked a couple picks ago. But Castle, he was also part of that UConn team. He improved as the season went on. He impacts the game with defense, passing, just being a good connective piece when he's out there. The jumper needs to come around, but I think if that jumper does improve, he could be like a Jimmy Butler type of player, because Stephon Castle, he brings it every night. I do like how he would complement LaMelo Ball. I like how he would complement Brandon Miller on the wing. So I think that would be a pretty solid addition for the Hornets. Pick number 7, going to be made by the Portland Trail Blazers, and they are going with Matas Buzelis. He's 6'11", about 200 pounds. He played in the G League, really good in high school, but he's got the length, he's got a good skill set. And I was reading an interview with this guy, and he was talking about how he just lives and breathes basketball. Like, he hated high school so much because all he wanted to do was just leave class so he could go back to playing basketball. And those are the types of players that you want on your team. You want guys who are completely obsessed with getting better and bringing it every night. So he is going to need to add some weight to his frame, but there's lots to like about him as a defender, as a shooter, and I also think it's a position of need for Portland. Pick number 8, going to be made by the Spurs again. This is via the Jakob Poeltl trade with the Raptors, so the Spurs get this pick, and they are going with Nikola Topic. So pair him with Donovan, and that's a pretty good draft, I think. He's a 6'6" guard from Serbia. I think he can play the 1 or the 2. He's also very young for this draft. He won the MVP of the U18 European Championships last year. But great court vision, high basketball IQ, smooth jumper, but he does need to be a little bit more consistent with it. Needs to work on his defense a lot too, but I like him, and I think he would do well in that Spurs system. Pick number 9, going to be made by the Memphis Grizzlies. If you're a watcher of this channel, you know that the Grizzlies are my team. And it's a little bit of a bummer that we did slide to number 9. But can't be too upset because we did draft G.G. Jackson last year at number 45. And he reclassified. So I think if he had not done so and ended up going into this draft, he would have been the consensus number 1 pick. So it's almost kind of like we already got the number 1 pick a year early. But I digress. Dalton Connect, you're the pick at number 9. Is he the Jimmer of this generation? I mean, could be, because he is super talented as an offensive player. He just shoots the cover off the ball from anywhere. But he's also fairly athletic. His defense may not be NBA level right now, but he's not going to kill you in that area. And just when this guy catches fire offensively, he's just so fun to watch. He's a great fit here on a team that can't have enough shooters. I think this may mean the end for Luke Kennard in a Grizzlies uniform, because he's also a shooter that makes way too much money. So I think Dalton Connect is actually a better shooter who's going to be making less money, who's bigger, who's a better defender. So Luke, love you, man, but might be your time to go, because it is Dalton Connect time in the Bluff City. Pick number 10, going to be made by the Utah Jazz, and they're going with Ron Holland. He's a 6'7", 6'8" forward out of the G League. He was the #1 recruit in the class of 2023. Also one of the youngest players in this draft, but super athlete, good motor, aggressive. I was listening to an interview with him, and he just wants to get better each and every day, and is just going to play 100% every time he's out there on the floor. So I think he has the tools to be a really solid player. The Jazz are a really good place for him to develop and be their long-term small forward of the future, potentially. Pick number 11, going to be made by the Chicago Bulls, and they're going with Tidjane Salaun. I've heard Tidjane Salaun. I don't know. I've never met the guy, but is this too high for Salaun/Saloon? I mean, maybe so at number 11 because he is a bit of a project, but he's doing well playing in France. They seem to love him over there. He's got a smooth stroke. He just has to be a little more consistent with his shooting and stretch it out to NBA range a little bit more. But he can attack the rim on cuts, good driver to the rim. Questions are about his feel for the game and how's that going to translate, but he's super young. You can really mold him and the type of player that you want him to be. I think he'll be in the G League a lot as a rookie, but Chicago, I think they need some young prospects that they can build up. And Salaun, he's the pick. Pick number 12, going to be made by the Oklahoma City Thunder via the Houston Rockets from some trade that I don't remember. And they are going with Cody Williams. Hey, his brother's on that team. He's the brother of Jalen Williams. And Cody, good at getting the ball to his spots, using his length on defense to guard multiple positions. But I think there's value in long and versatile wings in the NBA, so he does check a lot of boxes as to what scouts are looking for. He does need to show up every game and make an impact, but the Thunder, they have so many players. I think they can stick him in the G League for the majority of the year, let him improve. And then you're going to have 2 Williamses, and they're all going to be great. Well, I guess 3 Williamses, because you already have the other Jalen Williams. Let's just have a team of Williamses. Lou Williams, can you please come out of retirement? Monty Williams, can you coach this team, please? Pick number 13, going to be made by the Sacramento Kings, and they are going with Jacoby Walter. He's part Ja. He's part Kobe. He's Jacoby. And maybe a little bit of Walter McCarty mixed in there too. I don't know, just get all 3 of those names. But Jacoby Walter, I like him for the Sacramento Kings. Big question of what's going to happen with Malik Monk in free agency. So maybe Jacoby Walter could be the guy who replaces him. But he's instant offense off the bench, lots of shot making. He can stretch the floor, good in catch and shoot situations. He's a pretty confident player. He tries on defense. Maybe not as high of a ceiling as some players, but I think a pretty solid pick here who's not going to make a lot of mistakes, and he's not the kind of pick that's going to get a GM fired either. Pick number 14, going to be made by the Portland Trail Blazers via an old pick from the Golden State Warriors, and they're going with Kyle Filipowski. Now, maybe a little high for Filipowski here, but I like his game. He can shoot from the perimeter. He can attack closeouts. He brings the ball up the floor. His passing has taken a nice leap this season, so he's more comfortable reading the court. He's not going to kill you defensively. And I think Portland, they're a little thin in the front court, and he would be a talented big man to have there. Pick number 15, going to be made by the Miami Heat. Devin Carter, the son of former Miami Heat player Anthony Carter. That's who I have him taken. He transferred to Providence this year and just blew up offensively. He's already a good defender, but I see him as a riser going up the draft boards. Low bust potential in my opinion. And I think just kind of a Heat culture kind of guy for Miami. Pick number 16, going to be made by the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're going with Tristan da Silva. So if you look at Philadelphia's roster next year, they have Joel signed. They have Tyrese Maxey under contract, and they have Paul Reed if they pick up some option they have with him. So not too many guys under contract, but this is a team that is competing for the title. This is a team that needs guys who can come in and produce right away. Da Silva is that kind of guy. I think we're going to look back in a few years and say this guy should have been a top 10 pick, because he's a big forward, really good floor spacing ability, high IQ, hits the three, good connective passer, isn't going to stall the ball, and I actually think he could just kind of step right into that Tobias Harris role and give you kind of what Toby was giving you for those last several years. So, De Silva going to Philly. Pick number 17, I have the Lakers taking this pick. So New Orleans, they would be able to defer this pick that they own from the Lakers to, I think, next year. This was all part of the Anthony Davis trade. So I have the Lakers picking here at their original spot, and I have them going with Jared McCain out of Duke University, 6'3" guard. And I think he's kind of being slept on in this draft. He started out a little slow, but I think he ends up being late lottery, maybe just outside of the lottery like I have him here. But he plays hard. I like his game. He can really shoot the cover off the ball. I'm seeing like Seth Curry comparisons with Jared McCain. And the Lakers, they need shooters. When you have LeBron, AD, you need shooters on this team. We don't know what's going to happen with D'Angelo Russell in free agency, so maybe bring in another guard. I think Jared McCain fits the bill for the Lake Show. Pick number 18 going to be made by the Orlando Magic and Tyler Smith. Very generic name, but not a really generic player because he's 6'11", a stretch big. He shoots it, he rebounds it well. Does need to get a little bit stronger and does need to improve his defense in a big way. So it is going to take some time for him, but he's a former 5-star player with tons of talent. If Smith works out, he could be similar to former Orlando Magic player Rashard Lewis. So we'll have to see. Pick number 19, going to be made by the Toronto Raptors via the Pacers from the Pascal Siakam trade. Zach Edey. This spot is perfect for you. Canadian guy going to the Canadian team, a team that needs help at that center spot behind Jakob Poeltl. 7'4", 300 pounds, one of the most productive players in the history of college basketball. Edey would have been the number one pick 25 years ago, but I mean, this guy just does it all on the floor. Low post savant, huge screens, great touch around the hoop, gets to the line a ton, converts his free throws at over 70%. Questions are, how well does his game fit in with the modern NBA? Is he too slow? Can he stretch the floor? Don't overthink it. When it all comes down to it, this guy is just way too talented to be picked this much lower in the draft. So I would go with Zach Edey here. Part of me even wants my Grizzlies to take him at number 9. I don't know, I'm batting that back and forth, but I'm a big Zach Edey fan. Pick number 20, gonna be made by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they were going with Isaiah Collier. Isaiah Collier falling to 20 would be an absolute steal because he was one of the best guards coming out of high school. Pass first point guard, excels when he's getting downhill and finding open teammates. He's got really good size and strength, kind of like Tyreek Evans-esque, but not really good defensively, and questions do exist about his feel for the game and his shooting ability, so he needs to work on that. Also needs to work on cutting down his turnovers, but just a really super talented guy. But there's questions about Donovan Mitchell. Is he going to stay on the Cavaliers past this season? You know, we'll see how they do in the playoffs, but I think Isaiah Collier, good guy to have on Cleveland. Too much talent to pass up. Pick number 1, New Orleans Pelicans are picking here, and I have them going with Keyshawn George. Keyshawn George, the man with 2 first names, but he looks the part of a big NBA wing. He shoots it well. He's a good passer. Questions are about his body and his athleticism. Is he too skinny? Does he need to pack on a little bit of weight? I think so, but he's one of those 3-and-D guys that teams want to have. New Orleans, they can let him develop. Bring in another guy to maybe help fill that small forward spot with Keyshawn George. Pick number 22 going to be made by the Phoenix Suns, and they are going with Deron Holmes. He's a solid interior player who is showing flashes of a perimeter game. He protects the rim well. He's pretty strong inside. I think he can expand his game even more. Phoenix, they need big men. They need a lot of everything, really, because they have so much money tied up, and their big three, along with Grayson Allen with his new contract. Nurkic is still on the team. So they need some guys coming off the bench who can perform right away. So I think Deron Holmes would be a good guy for Phoenix. Pick number 23, Milwaukee, Algonquin for the good land. The Bucks are picking Jalen Tyson, who I think is going to be pretty solid. I could see him even going maybe just outside the lottery by the time the draft rolls around. He's one of these guys who can step in right away and play. He had a great year for Cal this past season, that he can shoot, he can defend, he can rebound. One of those players who stayed several years in college, but, kind of like Desmond Bane, you get him on an NBA roster, and this dude is just killing it out there, But, Jalen Tyson was asked to do a lot for his college team. I think you get him with other NBA players, and he will be a really solid complementary piece. Pick number 24, going to be made by the New York Knicks, and I have them selecting Yves Missi out of Baylor University, teammate of Jacoby. This pick is via the Kristaps Porzingis trade with Dallas. Man, that was forever ago. I was at a dentist appointment when I got that news. But Missi is 7 feet tall, 7'5" wingspan, good athlete. He's a rim runner. He blocks shots. He is a project, but he's got elite tools. So if he puts it all together, he would be a really good starting center down the line. Otherwise, he might just be Kai Jones. But the Knicks, I think, would be a good spot for Missi because they do need help at that center spot, because there's questions regarding Isaiah Hartenstein and his free agency, and Mitchell Robinson is always injured. So good to have another guy at that 5 spot. Good pick for the Knicks at number 24. I liked picking for the Knicks so well. Let's just pick for him again at 25, and this time let's give him Johnny Furphy from Lawrence, Kansas. I mean, that's where he played anyway. He's from Australia. But he had an up and down year for KU, but he's super athletic. He can shoot it well. He can rebound. This dude is just tough as nails. He's one of those guys where he'd lose a tooth during a game and he'd just throw it on the court and say, hey, let's keep playing. I'm Johnny Furphy. I have some baskets to score. I have my pretty long hair that I need to brush out of my eyes because I'm out here sweating playing basketball. Johnny Furphy, you're the pick for the Knicks. Pick number 26, going to be made by the Washington Wizards, Justin Edwards. Hey, they got his teammate Rob Dillingham already, so let's get Justin Edwards on the team now. He was also a very highly recruited player out of high school. Didn't have a great year at Kentucky, but maybe that's just a blip. Maybe he'll get into a professional setting and he'll be able to recapture some of what he had in high school. But he's a long athletic wing, really good defender. But he was the number 3 recruit coming out of high school, so you draft him hoping that he will check those boxes as a 3-and-D player at minimum and maybe a super athlete with all-star potential on the high end. He's got those tools that NBA teams love, so good guy for the Wizards to develop. Pick number 27, going to be made by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ryan Dunn is the pick, and I really like this pick for Minnesota because Ryan Dunn, he is all defense. He rebounds, he blocks, he steals, he doesn't do anything else. He's a bad shooter from everywhere, even the free throw line. But Minnesota, they have such an awesome defense already that just adding Ryan Dunn to that team just doesn't seem fair. It's just going to make what was a killer defense make it even better. Pick number 28, going to be made by the Denver Nuggets. Carlton Bub Carrington is the pick here. Let's call him Bub. Bones Highland didn't work out for Denver, but I see a lot of similarities in their game just as a bucket getter off the bench. Bub can act as a playmaker as well. Kind of a bigger Lou Williams kind of player if everything works out. I feel like I've mentioned Lou Williams a couple times in this video. This video, sponsored by Lou Williams. Pick number 29, going to be made by the Utah Jazz, and they are going with Pacome Didier, French player currently playing in Germany. One of the younger players in this draft. He has a lot of good shooting potential, moves well without the ball. can get to his open spots, can drill it from there, but high basketball IQ, maybe some defensive potential down the line. So go ahead and leave Pacôme Dadiet in France or Germany, wherever he wants to play overseas. Let him develop, and then bring him on over to the Utah Jazz. Pick number 30, final pick of 2024 mock draft 4.0, going to be made by the Boston Celtics, who I have personally going to the NBA Finals before losing to the Nuggets. And I have them selecting Kel'el Ware from the University of Indiana. Ware is a highly skilled center, decent post game, nice ability to stretch the floor with his outside shot. Big time athlete for a 7-footer, explosive around the hoop, leaping ability, great length, really good size, long arms, solid frame. Sky's the limit. Very similar to what I was saying about Yves Missy a few picks ago. If it all works out, he could be Jared Allen. Otherwise, he's, who did I say, Kai Jones. So, we'll see what happens. But Boston, I mean, whoever Boston picks isn't going to play for him anyway, because they have, so many other players ahead of them on the team. So, I don't know, just have Kel'el Ware and Jordan Walsh. They can be like the Celtics of the future in like 3 or 4 years. I don't know. But yeah, Kel'el Ware, he's the pick at number 30. Guys, let me know in the comments, who do you have picking for your team? Tell me how wrong I am on my picks, or, tell me how much of a basketball genius I am. But regardless, make sure you like the video, because 500 likes will get you another mock draft video in a few weeks where I do the first and second round. And I know that at the beginning of the video I said all 60 picks. Fine. It's going to be 58 picks because 2 teams have lost their second rounder. So 58 picks. Hey, if I get 600 likes, maybe I'll do all 60. But we're going to get first and second round if I get 500 likes. So make sure you do that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you never miss another NBA video from me. This bed's looking pretty comfy. I think I'm going to take a nap, and I'll catch you next time on the Half Court Report. Have a great day.